What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Our Two Cents. Chris Dobson, Gerry Green coming at you. It is Thursday, May 9th. Hard to believe we're already into May, which means it's the fun time of year for a lot of things going on. Gerry, good to see the fact that I was surprised to see you sobered up from the Timberwolves win. Can't wait to hear all about that later. But it looked like Miramichi was an absolute bump in place. We've got a big show lined up. We've got a great one. We're going to talk it off right here, of course, with the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, and that is the Gilles Courteau Trophy will be up for grabs as Drummondville and Baie-Comeau, no surprise, won their series collectively in 5 games apiece to go head-to-head on this matchup. Baie-Comeau only losing that one game to Cape Breton. Otherwise, they've run the gauntlet the entire way. What can fans expect to see here? Is there any surprises for you here? I don't think so. But overall, what an offensive and what a two-team juggernaut we've got going into the Gilles Courteau final here.
Yeah, and that rink in Baie-Comeau, Chris, I've been in it numerous times. It's not a big place, but the roof is going to come off it if they win a championship there, because it's a tight-knit community on the northern shore of the St. Lawrence, across from Rimouski, if you will, if you want to visualize that. And they are right into it. They've been sold out for almost the last 4 playoff games they've had in Baie-Comeau, but it was Cape Breton that gave them the best run, and without a lopsided game number 4, which seemed to take the steam out of the Eagles, it might be surprising where this might have ended up, because all 4 other games, as Cape Breton loses in 5, were very tight with any goal or of each other or a bounce from each other. That's the way hockey can be. So no surprise that Baie-Comeau is there. And really, we've talked about it all season long. No surprise Drummondville is there. Drummondville had a little bit of a tussle with Victoriaville, but I think the 2 deserving teams are there. And I think with Justin Poirier pouring in the goals for Baie-Comeau, I don't think Drummondville will stop their offense. I'm going to say in 6 for Baie-Comeau and the championship.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think, just watching what Baie-Comeau's done, and this isn't to take anything away from Drummondville, because it would be absolutely epic, but I just don't see a scenario where they can't get it done. Looking at statistics and looking at numbers, offensively, defensively, goaltending, everything kind of sits in the favor of Baie-Comeau and everything they've done. So yeah, I'm with you, Gerry. I don't think that we're not going to go over the top here. I think we're looking at Baie-Comeau in 6, maybe even in 5. But either way, should be a good series, should be a good physical series. I am excited for it. So I guess we'll stay tuned. That series starts tonight, actually, as we're shooting this. So right. Overall, let's move on a little bit too, because I know I want to talk about the under 18s specifically. Congratulations to Gardner McDougall adding another win to his resume behind the bench, this time on the international stage for Hockey Canada. Caleb Desnoyers, the young player of the Moncton Wildcats, played on that team. Overall should be a great time, especially if you've been paying attention to any social media aspect as of late. Gardner McDougall's name has been thrown around, especially here in our own backyard in the Moncton side of things. All rumors at this point. We don't have any hard evidence. I can assure you I have reached out to every person in my Rolodex to find out if we get some information here. But Stefan Leroux from RDS tweeted out that the Moncton Wildcats could be expecting to be naming Gardner McDougall the next head coach of the Moncton Wildcats here. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Again, all rumors at this point. He's denied the claim. But overall, what I'm hearing is that he wants to coach at a bigger stage. He wanted the opportunity to possibly coach at the world junior level, and he wants to get some CHL experience under his belt. But again, all hearsay, all rumors. No one knows for sure. But I can tell you that the Wildcats were going to try to kick in the front door of the Memorial Cup run, because Rimouski will be hosting it this year. So, they are in need of a head coach. They're in need of a general manager at this point. I think the timing is all a little suspicious for me to think that there's not a plan in place. But hey, you never know. But either way, congratulations to Gardner and Team Canada winning the under 18s. Big come from behind win in that game too, to win that gold medal, a big 5-minute major, turn that entire game around.
And there's a team in the NHL that might be looking for a coach and or a president, is the Toronto Maple Leafs, as we switch gears. Lost again in the first round, this time to the Boston Bruins, and certainly had their chances, Chris, but they won 1 of 3 games on home ice, and they go 1 for 21 on the power play. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know from a team that was offensive during the whole season. They get a goal and 2 assists from Marner. They get a goal and 3 assists from Matthews. They get a goal and an assist from Tavares. Look at the top 3. Well, they got 3 from Nylander, which I was happy for that. But look at the top 3 for Boston. Marchand had 3, DeBrusk had 4, and Pasternak had 3. That's how you do it. You have your leaders lead, and you get good goaltending. And I'm not gonna discredit the Toronto goaltending. I thought it was good enough to win. The offense wasn't there when they needed it, and the Leafs are on the outside looking in again. Chris, what do they have to do wrong to get somebody fired? It's enough already. It is enough with this Fab Four. It's enough with the coach. It's enough with the president, Shanahan. You can't get rid of Treliving. He just arrived. So what do you do next?
What I will say is this, and that is, for what needs to take place in Toronto, is the core four can be no more. And that's how I'm going to word it that way. But your options are limited. What I can't stand is I hate how bad that Mitch Marner got ripped apart in the media. And at the end of the day, I understand why. You know, he's not big game Mitch. He doesn't do, there's a couple plays, and of course that's what they focus on, where he takes the wrong way through a playoff so he doesn't get hit. But overall, they had a great opportunity. I don't think Marner was as bad as everyone placed him out to be in this series, especially when Austin Matthews went down. You know, he had some big goals. Willie came back, which was good for them. But, you know, in order for the Leafs to move forward, one of those big contracts has to go. You need to figure it out. You're not moving Matthews' contract. Willie's not going anywhere. Tavares has only got 1 year.
Yeah,
that's right. Tavares has got 1 year left on his ridiculous deal. So what I think you're going to see happen is, I mean, look, they could do one of two things. One, in my opinion, hockey fan first, Habs fan second here. I will tell you, from a Leafs perspective, they could fire Shanahan. Keefe should have already been told, like, don't even give him an exit interview. Keefe should be sent packing at this point. Because at this point, it's on him. If you can't get this team hyped up to win, you figure it out. One of those contracts has to go. Beef up your blue line. The blue line's still it for me. I love Morgan Riley, but he's not your guy. He can't be your guy. I think Joseph Wall was good enough to backstop the Toronto Maple Leafs moving forward. Samsonov, I love him. I just don't think he's just inconsistent. I would love to see him get it, but Joseph Wall's good enough. You need to move. I hate to say it, but you got to move Marner. And if I'm Utah, I'm knocking on the door right now to find out what it's going to take to bring a big name like him in to sell jerseys. And what's it going to cost? Mind you, they don't have the assets to do it. But you've got a piece right now in Marner. You move him. You acquire some stud defensive pieces. Maybe you upgrade your goaltending, but I don't think you have to. But at the end of the day, something's got to change. Something's got to give. What's the definition of insanity? Repeating the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, this is going on year 4 or 5 now, the same nonsense. Something's got to give, but it's time to clean house.
Jets didn't get any goaltender in that series with Colorado. Here you have the Vezina finalists in Hellebuck. And some people say, well, it's not his fault. Well, it was his fault. 5.6 was the goals against in 5 games with Colorado. And there was times he's waving it. Anyways, it was a complete collapse by the Jets, who were one of the top defensive teams in the NHL during the regular season. Well, they weren't so in the playoffs. And one of the factors was Colorado goes 6 for 16 on the power play. That's 37.5% on the power play. And that was the doom and gloom for the Winnipeg Jets. And I thought so. Once it was 7-6 in that first game, I said, what are we in store for here? Well, Colorado shut it down better defensively. Winnipeg did not. They were reeling the whole time. And it was unfortunate to see them go in the first round after getting 52 wins during the regular season, a franchise record, and don't move out of the first round. Well, I'm kind of excited about what's going to happen in the second round. We're going to have 2 Canadian teams play, Chris, and one of them's going to get eliminated. But Edmonton-Vancouver is certainly a distinction in styles. One's an offensive team. One's a defensive team, as Vancouver beat Nashville. And Edmonton had little trouble with LA. I didn't think it was going to be that easy. And again, with the power play, Oilers 45% in that opening round against LA. This is a series I'm going to really enjoy to watch. 2 Canadian teams. We're going to lose one, but they're going to be fun to watch. They know each other very well.
But you're right. We are going to lose one. But on the plus side, we're guaranteed a Canadian team in the semis. That's all I'm looking at it from that perspective. And look, let's be real. The Vancouver Canucks, once Thatcher Demko went down, Jerry, I thought the Canucks were done. I thought it was over. And at that point, I was like, okay, I was worried because I was rooting for them. I mean, Vancouver had a hell of a season. They turned things around quickly. They got everybody extended the way I wanted to. This is going to be a fun series. However, no Thatcher Demko. Similar to the LA series, I think, honestly, I think Edmonton walks all over Vancouver. I think Edmonton wins this series in 5. That's
the Canucks swept the season series, right? You knew that? Canucks swept the season series.
100%, but
right,
goaltending makes a difference. I'm fine with it. But I think at this
Dallas,
point,
Colorado,
in Edmonton. No, I'm
Yes,
done.
Dallas,
Go.
Colorado is the next series that gets underway, and that will be fun. And again, Dallas played some tight games against the defending champs, Las Vegas, Vegas rather. And you know what I say: to be the man, you got to beat the man. And they've done that so far, and had to do it in Game 7 on their home ice. Colorado's been rested, and like we saw the other night, Florida was home rested, and Boston comes in after beating Toronto on Saturday and winning on Monday substantially 5-1, and they got good goaltending to do so, but they put 5 by the Bob the goalie there, and the other one that I think the Rangers walk away with, which I'm going to be surprised, but the way Carolina plays, I don't get any enthusiasm. I don't get any flair. They're very vanilla. I don't know what I'm getting when I watch Carolina, but I think the Rangers are one of those teams that finished number 1 in the league, and I think they're going to take that to a final.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. It's tough right now to watch. I love the concept of this Rangers Carolina series. I've loved watching Carolina play. But I do agree with you. When I started this NHL prediction I've got the Oilers beating the Rangers in the Stanley Cup final. That was my prediction from the get-go. That being said, that Dallas-Colorado series is one I'm really excited for because Dallas has looked unreal. Robertson's playing on another level right now. Everything, but at the same time, it's the Colorado Avalanche. The talent they have up front, they've proven. I mean, they I'm not going to say they shocked the world with the Winnipeg series, but at the same time, I think a lot more people would consider them the underdog based off regular season statistics. So Dallas, Colorado is a series I'm really looking forward to right now. Bruins, Panthers, I think is going to be a full-blown lopsided affair for the Florida Panthers. I think they're going to walk all over Boston 5, maybe 6. But overall,
definitely 5 because Boston won the first one, so it's definitely 5. Yes, but yes, Chris, right. I see what you mean. Is Florida going to find their mojo, or do you have Boston feeling the vibes of a Game 7 and finish the pressure of the playoffs?
Swayman's your key factor there.
Absolutely, and they better not switch back and forth either. Leave Swayman in there. I know they did through the regular season. Yes, he's got to play the rest of the way. And the draft was just held, Chris. Was there a surprise for you?
Lottery,
the statistic draft lottery, sorry. The statistics going in now, if Celebrini is the number 1 pick, he's from Canada, he's from Vancouver. 4 of the last 6 years, Canadians have been taken first overall. You had Bedard, Owen Power, which I forgot about, that was taken by Buffalo, and then you had Lafreniere. And before that was Jack Hughes. So Hughes and your guy, Slavkovsky there from Montreal, the only ones that situate themselves as the number 1 picks in the last 6 years that are not Canadian.
That's right. And that entire draft you're going into it, everybody thought the Canadian Shane Wright was going to be the first overall pick that year. So overall, Slavkovsky slid up there and took that spot, and Wright bumped down 4 or 5 spots. But overall, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The draft lottery, to me, we've talked about this in years past, even on our old show. I can tell you I was never a fan of lotteries. I don't like draft lotteries. I think the lottery is foolish. I think I do understand why it happens to prevent the tank, but overall, I can't stand them. But yes, it did happen tonight, and good on San Jose, never getting a draft lottery win before. Love it. Utah coming in this season, I mean, they stayed put where they were going to be, but overall, I'm excited for it. There's a lot of exciting things happening in the National Hockey League.
Everybody stayed where they were, Chris, and I was glad because San Jose had an 18.5% chance of getting the number 1 pick, and they dearly need a star or an injection of enthusiasm in San Jose. I thought the conspiracy might be in there, Chris. You know me. Chicago had the 2nd pick. Chicago has Bedard. They're going to give them a Celebrini as well, and all of a sudden you'd think, oh, when is the West Coast ever going to get a superstar? If you remember back when Crosby in Anaheim, where was he going to go? Pittsburgh or Anaheim? He ends up in Pittsburgh. Anaheim gets Bobby Ryan, and we know where that ended up. But it's a real superstar like Celebrini, which he's supposed to be, ending up on the West Coast. We'll have to stay up late to watch him.
Absolutely, which stinks, but overall, kudos to them. Love it. All right, Jerry, let's quickly talk about the NBA because their playoffs have been a lot of fun to watch. I mean, look at the Timberwolves right now. They are for real. They look great. Real. Anthony Edwards, and just foolish.
Yeah, they beat the defending champs in their building and beat them substantially in game number 2. And the series I'm watching, Chris, I love everything to do. I like the Mets. I like watching the Yankees and the Mets in case something goes wrong. But I love watching the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden. And I love how much the New York fans love their Knicks and love their basketball. And they're in a real tussle with the Indiana Pacers. And the other thing I like about that, you got OG Anunoby, former Raptor, going up against Siakam, former Raptor. That excites me because they have a Canadian connection. And then OKC excites me because of what they've got going on there. A very young team that's won a series, one of the first, the youngest teams to win a series, and now they're going to take on Dallas, so I think are a little bit long in the tooth. I'm going to go for OKC.
Yeah, I would like to see too. Look, I like Luka Doncic. I would love to see him get through, but at the same time, watching that whole thing take place, I agree with you. I think that it would be a great series win for them. On the flip side, though, I mean, as much as I love watching the Knicks do what they do at Madison Square, I don't think anyone's touching the Celtics. I think it's an absolute cakewalk, and I think they're just going to walk all the way through. I think it's going to be the easiest path to the final for the Eastern side. Is the way the Celtics are running through it. But overall, it's just one of those things where I just can't, we'll see overall, but I'm maybe you talk about conspiracy theories here now. Like I'm just that guy. I've already set that in stone as soon as it moved forward.
Do we want to talk about the Blue Jays, Chris? Do you want to talk about the Blue Jays?
We can talk about them quickly, but I want to give a shout out to Wemby. Wemby did win Rookie of the Year. Have to applaud him. Third guy to do it unanimously as a rookie. Tim Duncan. You got Victor Wembanyama and oh my goodness, what's the other guy's name?
You mean the San Antonio?
David Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson. Robinson, yes.
Either way, way to go, Wemby. Congrats on that. Let's talk about the Jays quickly, Jerry, before we
quick note, Chris. Quick notes about the Blue Jays. They've really turned me off baseball. I'm not anxious to watch them anymore. I used to love when they used to have a chance to win. I don't know if they're going to win from night to night.
Look, the only thing that Blue Jays fans should be excited about right now is that they hope that Joey Votto's ankle injury starts to recover quick enough so at least they can get him in the lineup. And then hopefully at that point they can sell some Joey Votto jerseys in Canada. That's my thought on that, but I agree. They're absolute garbage right now. Jerry, this has been an unreal show. Great draft lottery show for us. But I want to know what is happening. What's going on in the Atlantic scene? Tell me all about it. The Atlantic scene with Jerry.
Thanks, Chris. From the Atlantic scene, it all reverts around the MHL. I covered the MHL all season long, specifically the Miramichi Timberwolves. And I said during a radio interview here locally that if the moon and stars align, the Timberwolves could possibly win a championship. Well, the sun and the moon aligned, and the Miramichi Timberwolves did win a championship. They've done so after 24 seasons in the MHL. They started in 2000. Here in 2002, they collect their first championship. They do it in Game 6 last Thursday, a 5-4 come-from-behind win over the perennials. The Summerside Western Capitals are always at the top of the standings. They're always the Goliath you need to slay, and this David did that by beating them in 6 games in front of 2,300 fans at the Miramichi Civic Center last Thursday night. The joint was jumping. But the voyage wasn't easy for this 4th seed team. They had to go through West Kent. They beat them in 5 games. They were ahead of them in the standings. They had to beat the Northern champions from Edmonton. They whitewashed them 4 games to none. And then who do they face in the final but Summerside, the winners of the overall standings and of the Southern Division, and they beat them in 6. They were down by 2 entering the third. They had a big third period to win 5-4, and they didn't have to go back to Summerside for game number 7. And they do so, come from behind, on the back of Jack Flanagan. Jack's from St. John. He was the tournament or the playoff MVP. He goes 11-0-2. The only time he lost were 2 overtime games to Summerside. He had a 2.86 goals against average, a save percentage of .917. And the Timberwolves themselves only used 15 games to win the championship. They went 12-1-2 to win their very first championship. And the only loss they had was in regulation. The only regulation loss they had was in the very first game of the playoffs against West Kent. So it's off to the Centennial Cup. Where is it this year? It's in Oakville, Ontario at the 16-mile Sportsplex with 10 other teams vying for the Junior A championship. It opens tonight for the Timberwolves to take on the Melfort Mustangs of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. They took down the number 1 seed in Saskatchewan, even though they're from Manitoba, the Flin Flon Bombers, to advance to the championships. They did that in 6 games. It's a 10-day event. It starts Thursday, ends the next Sunday with the final from Oakville. Also on the Atlantic scene, have you heard about the Maritime Women's Basketball Association? Well, again, this has a Miramichi twist. It's come to the Miramichi. They're called the Hurricanes. Play on words, H-E-R, Canes. And they get a victory in their very first home game at the Miramichi Valley High School Gymnasium. And I would say in front of approximately 400 fans. They beat the Fredericton Freeze by a count of 77-70. And there are a number of other teams in the league, two from Halifax, one's the Thunder and the Hornets. Have you ever heard of Lake City? Well, I looked it up today. Dartmouth is considered the city of lakes. They have a team there. They're called the 56ers. Also the Portland Fog, the Fredericton Freeze, and the Moncton Mystics. Now, keep your eye. They've got some good games coming up this week. They have New Brunswick spin on these. Friday night at 7, Port City takes on Fredericton in Fredericton. And that would be at the Lord Beaverbrook or the Lady Beaverbrook Gymnasium. Meanwhile, Halifax Hornets come to Moncton to take on the Mystics. That's at the Crandall University Gymnasium, and that starts at 6 o'clock. So get out and enjoy and support the ladies of the MWBA. Chris, that's my Atlantic scene. How about your 2 cents?
Oof, what a great Atlantic scene. As far as my 2 cents goes, I didn't have to dig deep, Jerry. I mean, after all, this was draft, basically the draft lottery week in the NHL. But I started digging a little deeper here to think about, okay, there's been something that's been grinding my gears for a little while now, and I just want to give you my 2 cents on it, and that is the Canadian Hockey League, or 66.6% of the Canadian Hockey League, I should add, does their draft completely wrong. In my opinion, you look at the WHL and the OHL, hard to believe they're well into their respective series. The WHL is into their semifinals right now. One of those finals already been decided, waiting for that Game 7 to happen. The OHL is the same way. They do their draft, not the lottery, the draft in the middle of the playoffs. In the OHL, it's done in April, mid-April. I believe the 12th was when the OHL had theirs. But May 9th coming up is when the WHL is doing their full draft. And again, they don't do these drafts live and in person like the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League does. They do these virtual. They do these over the phone. They call the kids. They do it. It's all online. It's very impersonal. And I've been griping on this draft stuff for years. I mean, we covered a draft, Jerry, back, during the Rogers TV side of things. And it's such a spectacular event to see when these players get drafted. And in the QMJHL, they do it right. They go on in, they bring these players in front of their friends and family. It's a whole setup, it's a whole stage, but they do it at the end of the year. Let these teams recuperate, let them focus on the playoffs, and then once that's done, make that move. I think it's wrong. I think it's backwards that the WHL and the OHL do it this way. I just don't understand what the hype is. I mean, this should be an event for the fans. It's exciting. The QMJHL draft this year is in Moncton. So, the Avenir Center is going to be bumping. I can't wait to see how that whole thing is going to play out. I've been to live drafts before. They're fun. Overall, I think it's broken. I think the CHL should align these things one way or another. I just hope it's not the virtual way. I hope they do. Now, I do understand there's an expense to it. I get it. But having these things in the middle of a playoff, I think, is a mess for these teams who are involved, when it comes to lotteries and how this all works out. Just my 2 cents. I think it's broken. I think it's something that needs to be reevaluated. Can't wait to hear yours, Jerry. Hit me with your 2 cents before we send this thing home.
Well, my 2 cents this week, Chris, is about a tribute to a Monctonian, a Maritimer, who's going to call it quits from the NHL. I talk about Richard Gary Bowness. Rick Bowness is retiring from the Winnipeg Jets after 38 years in the NHL, not only as a player, but also as a coach. He was born in Moncton, began his junior career with the Quebec Ramparts. He was taken 26th overall, Chris, in 1975 by the Atlanta Flames. That's so long ago we're talking about. And he's coached many teams. He's played for many teams, Atlanta, Detroit, St. Louis, and he did play in Winnipeg. And a matter of fact, he holds the dubious distinction of coaching the Jets in their first carnation in Winnipeg, and then they go to Phoenix. And then when they bring the Jets back to Winnipeg, who's there again to coach? But Rick Bowness. In between, head coach in Boston, head coach in Ottawa, associate, and then eventual head coach for New York and the Islanders, Phoenix Coyotes, and the Dallas Stars. He becomes associate and then becomes the head coach. He goes to the Cup 3 times, Chris. He loses in 2011 when he was in Vancouver, and they lost that to Boston. You remember that? He lost in the finals with Tampa Bay. In 2015, they lost to Chicago. Remember that? And in 2020, that's the most recent, in Dallas, he was the head coach and then coached them the next season besides. They lost to Tampa Bay. And, of course, he coached in Moncton with the Hawks from in 1987 and 1988. His NHL career, 173 games. He had 18 goals and 37 assists for 55 points and 191 penalty minutes. And he was actually the first AHL coach for the Winnipeg Jets too, when they were in Sherbrooke as the Jets. He does then go to Winnipeg and coach in 84 and 85. But the other thing about Bowness, when he was the head coach of the Moncton Hawks, that was 87-88 and 88-89, he does eventually get promoted to Winnipeg after they fire Dan Maloney. So he's had lots of experience with the Winnipeg franchise. He was the first coach of the Ottawa Senators when they brought in an expansion in 1992. He was the head coach with New York after they got rid of with the Islanders, after they got rid of Mike Milbury. His NHL head coaching record, 803 games. I'll spit it out. 310 wins, 408 losses, 48 ties, Chris, and 37 overtime losses. He has coached in over 2,000 NHL games as either a head coach or an associate coach. Personal issues came up for him and his family this offseason. Rick had to miss time with his own health issues, and then his wife Judy had a seizure during the season, if you might remember as well. It's probably a main factor why Rick Bowness is going to call it quits after so many years in the NHL. A proud Maritimer, a Monctonian, a Maritimer who has left a positive impression everywhere he's been in the NHL and around the hockey world. He retires at 69. We salute you. That's my 2 cents. Hope
Happy
you've enjoyed this
retirement,
week's show. Yes. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next week on our 2 cents.